All right, today we're factoring 11.7 ax squared plus bx plus c. We're going to be factoring trinomials with degree 2. So these will also be, like last night's, quadratics. They will also have 3 terms. So we're factoring trinomials. And the leading coefficient our a term will be a prime number. In last notes, we just had this x squared plus bx plus c, and we only had our a term equal to 1. Today we're going to have our a term equal to a number other than 1, a prime number, meaning that is only divisible by 1 in itself. So if we recall back to multiplying, we'd multiply this out, 2x times x, to get 2x squared, 2x times 3 to get 6x, and 3 times x to get 3x. And our last, 3 times 3 to get 9. Combining our middle terms right here, we have 6x and 3x, which make up 9x. And this was a positive 9 from positive 3 and positive 3. Now if you notice our trinomial here, once again, quadratic trinomial, the leading coefficient is 2, meaning that we're going to have now a number other than 1. So when we do these for factoring, if we think back to our distributive property, we're going to be checking them the same way we checked them when we factored when a was 1. We're going to be guessing and checking. But the difference is we're going to have a couple more things to guess and check, more combinations. So if we think about this, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about this a term. In this case, the a term in this one was 2. In order to get this 2, your factors were 2 and 1. So to get 2x squared, it comes from 2x and x. Our c term will determine what is multiplied at the end. In this trinomial, our c term is 9. So you've got more possibilities there. It could be 9 times 1, 3 times 3, and in this case, it was 3 and 3, which we can check here. We have 2 times x is 2x squared, 3 times 3 is 9. The hard part about this is checking the middle terms. When we check the outside terms and the inside terms to make sure they add up to our b term, we could have a lot of different possibilities. 3 times x is 3x, 2 times 3 is 6x. We want this to be a positive 9x for our b term, so both of these will be positive 3 and positive 6. So that's why our factors were 2x plus 3 and x plus 3. Every time we do this, though, to make sure these middle terms work out with the end terms that we have chosen, we always need to guess and check our work. Factor completely. Our steps for factoring these, like always, we always check for our GCF. If you refer back to that graphic organizer that we've been using, still the first step is to always check for the GCF. Now if you think back to our trinomials, it says still for the 3 terms, use the guess and check method for factoring. So what we're going to do is we're going to list the factor pairs for our a term and our c term. So we're going to list the factors for a, and we're going to list the factors for c. And then we will continue to guess and check until we find the right combination. It's like a puzzle. Just like our x and o's, it is like a puzzle to find which one works best. But now that we have an a term other than 1, our graphic organizer for our x's and o's is no longer useful. We can't use that when we have an a term other than 1. So let's look at our first problem. 3x squared minus 13x minus 10. Check first for GCF. 3x squared, negative 13x, and negative 10 don't have any terms in common. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to list the factor pairs for A and C. So listing the factor pairs for A, which in this case is 3, I've got 1 and 3. Listing the factor pairs, because A is prime in this case, listing the factor pairs for 10, I've got 1 and 10 and 2 and 5. So we've got some different possibilities here. All right, I want you to put your pencil down and just watch this process. So take a minute, put your pencil down, don't write anything down, and I want you to watch this process. So our first problem here, I just rewrote it. I'm going to show you all the possibilities we can do with this. A whiteboard is great to do practice with because you can keep erasing while you are guessing and checking. So I have listed my 1 and 3 and my 1 and 10 with 2 and 5. So I'm going to draw my first factors, and I'm going to start guessing and checking. Well, looking at this being a prime number, there's only one possibility to get 3x squared, and that's my 1 and my 3. So I'm going to have one of them being 3x and the other one being x. And we can check that, 3x times x, 3x squared. So there's only one possibility for that. Now we've got a couple more possibilities for what my end number could be. I'm going to start off by putting 1 and 10 and try it out. I can check this last term. 1 times 10 will give me my 10, but I've got to check the middle terms. 3x times 10 will give me 30x, and 1 times x will give me x. Well, I'm trying to get my middle term of negative 13. So negative 13, I cannot get negative 13 from that. Notice it multiplies to a negative number. So that means one of them is positive and one of them is negative. So this will not work out. So I'm going to erase that. And I'm going to try 1 and 10, but in different positions. So I can put 10 here and 1 here. Once again, I'm going to multiply these. 10 times x is 10x. 3x times 1 is 3x. 10x and 3x. That looks really familiar to negative 13. Well, if I need negative 13, these have to both be negative. Negative 10 and negative 1. 3x times x is 3x squared. Negative 10x minus 3x gives me negative 13x. And negative 10 times negative 1 does not give me negative 10. So even though it worked out for the middle term, it did not give us the correct sign in our trinomial. So I'm going to erase that one and try again. Guessing and checking. So 1 and 10 does not work in either position. So now I'm going to go on to 5 and 2. So I'm going to put 5 and 2. Checking this one, I've got 5 times x is 5x. 3x times 2 is 6x. Well, from that combination, I still can't get my 13x. So I'm going to erase that again, and I'm going to flip-flop their order. Multiplying these out, I've got 2 times x is 2x, and 3x times 5 is 15x. Well, I can make this work. I can come up with a combination if I need negative 13x. That means my 15 has to be negative, and my 2 has to be positive. So negative 15 plus 2x will give me negative 13x. Well, if I have positive 2 here, that means my 2 was positive. And if I have negative 15x here, that means my 5 was negative. We can check the whole thing by multiplying it back together. 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times negative 5 is negative 15x. 2 times x is 2x. And 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. So let's go back to our problem and write what our solution is. So the two factors that answered this one were 3x plus 2 and x minus 5. This is our answer for our factors. Remember, factors can be written in any order. So you could also have x minus 5 times 3x plus 2. These are the same exact answers. All right, so it's a little bit of a process, but I think we can do it. Number 2, write the problem down. 3x squared minus 8x minus 11. First, looking for GCF, and we have nothing. So next I'm going to write my factors of a, which are 1 and 3, and my factors for 11, 1 and 11. Notice 11 is a prime number, so you don't have very many guesses to find, guessing, and checking your two factors. So I want you to pause the video and try finding what two factors multiply back to 3x squared minus 8x minus 11. Okay, hopefully you've had a chance to find your factors. I started setting mine up. I knew I needed 3x and x to get my 3x squared, and I've put my positions here with 11 and 1. So I'm multiplying 3x times x to get 3x squared. The inside will give me 11x, and the outside will give me 3x. And this part, 11 times 1, will give me 11. But I need to make sure I have the correct signs. In order to get negative 8x, I need negative 11x and positive 3x. That means 11 is negative and 1 is positive. So I can check this all now. We have negative 11x plus 3x to get my negative 8x. And negative 11 times 1 gets negative 11. So my solution is 3x minus 11 times x plus 1. Okay, on to number 3. We have 2x squared plus 7x plus 6. Our factors for 2 are 1 and 2. Our factors for 6 are 1 and 6, and 2 and 3. All right, we have a couple more possibilities to get that term there. Pause the video and try factoring it out. All right, hopefully you've had a chance to factor them out. With my 2x squared, I needed 2x and x. When I tried all my combinations, 1 and 6 did not work. So I ended up with 3 and 2. Now I just have to get my signs. 2x times x is 2x squared. 3 times x is 3x. 2x times 2 is 4x. Well, in order to get 7x as my middle term, both of these must be positive. So I have positive 3x and positive 2. So I have positive 3x, positive 4x, and my last multiplication, 3 times 2 equals 6. So these have worked, and my factors are 2x plus 3 times x plus 2. Remember, if you got yours in the opposite order, x plus 2 times 2x plus 3, that is perfectly fine. Just make sure that the numbers are the same in each of the factors. All right, number 4. Get a little more challenging. We have 2x squared plus 5x minus 18. Write your factors. We have 1 and 2 for 2. For 18, we have 1 and 18, 2 and 9, and 3 and 6. Got a couple more factors here to guess and check with. Pause the video and try it out. All right, hopefully you found your factors. With this 2x squared, I have 2x and x. When I tried 1 and 18, they didn't work out. I tried 3 and 6 in different positions, they didn't work out. So I end up with 9 and 2. So 2x times x is my 2x squared. 9 times x. 2x times 2x gives me 4x. So my position to get a positive 5, I have 9 and negative 4. So positive 9 and negative 4, so I have a positive 9 here, which means this was a negative 2. And then checking the last one, 9 times negative 2, I get negative 18. So the two factors are 2x plus 9 and x minus 2. All right, our next one here, we have 6x squared plus 10x plus 4. Now remember what I said about this lesson. We're going to be factoring when a is prime. Notice 6 is not a prime number. So thinking back to our steps, we always have to check for our GCF first, our greatest common factor. So between these terms that we have, 6, 10, and 4, 2 divides into all of them evenly. So we have to factor out first our GCF. So factoring a 2 out of this trinomial, I'm left with 3x squared plus 5x plus 2. Now we have a cleaner trinomial to factor. We can factor this now that a is prime again, which is our 1 times 3, and we have 2, which is 1 times 2, so not many possibilities what this could be. We're going to write our 2 on the outside still from our GCF, and we're going to find what factors work for this. Well, in order to get 3x squared, I have 3x and x, and then I'm going to move around my 1 and 2 till I find my possibilities in the center. Well, I know this is a positive 2, so they're going to be the same sign, and this is positive as well. So we're going to be adding to a positive number, so both of these will be positive factors. And then I can get my 5x if I place my 2 here and my 1 here. So multiplying this out, I've got 3x times x is 3x squared. 2 times x is 2x. 3 times x is 3x, which makes my positive 5 in the center. And 2 times 1 is 2. So my full answer for this factored is 2, 3x plus 2 times x plus 1. All right, so like I said, our first step for factoring GCF, sometimes we forget to factor out a GCF. Flip your page over, and let's see what happens when we forget to factor a GCF. 2 of these are possibilities for factoring this same trinomial. However, they do multiply back to the same trinomial and they are correct factors. But if you notice on the top of our instructions, they say factor completely. So in case we forget to factor the GCF, we always have to check our binomials to see if they have something else to factor. In this case, we can factor out a 2, leaving this one as x plus 1 times 3x plus 2. Noticing this one as well, this term 6 and 4 have a GCF of 2. So factoring that out, we have 3x plus 2 times x plus 1. Now these are the same exact answers even though these are in different positions because commutative property allows us to do that with multiplication. These are now both factored completely, but it is much easier if you see the GCF in the beginning to not forget to factor it out. All right, let's do a couple more for extra practice. We've got number 6, 2x squared plus 5x minus 12. Notice between 2, 5, and 12, there is no GCF. So I want you to list your factors of A, list your factors of C, and see what works with your guess and check method. Pause the video and then check your work. Okay, hopefully you've had time to factor this out. I listed my factors of 2, listed my factors of 12, and used my guess and check method until I found the solution. I plugged in 2x and x for my 2x squared, and then I got my middle terms to be negative 3 to be negative 3x, and positive 4 to get positive 8x. Negative 3 plus 8 checks off my 5x, and negative 3 times positive 4 checks off my negative 12. So my final answer was 2x minus 3 times x plus 4. All right, here's your next one. 3x squared minus 4x minus 7. Find your factors and guess and check. Play the video when you're ready to check your answer. All right, hopefully you've had time to work this one out. 1 and 3 were my factors of 3. 1 and 7 were my factors of 7, so both of these being prime, there weren't many possibilities that this could be. So I rearranged it until I found the correct combination. Multiplying these together, I have negative 7x, positive 3x, which adds together to my negative 4x, and negative 7 times positive 1 give me negative 7. So my final answer was 3x minus 7 times x plus 1. Don't forget, these can be flipped the order. All right, number 8. 15x squared minus 65x plus 60. Those look like really big numbers. Before you start this one out, I would look for a GCF. Play the video when you're ready to check your work. Okay, time to solve this one out. This one did have a GCF of 5. So the first thing I did was factor 5 out of my trinomial, which left behind 3x squared minus 13x plus 12. Then I listed my factors for 12, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and 3 and 4. And my factors for 3 were 1 and 3. So checking my work for this, I end up with 3x minus 4 and x minus 3. So my final answer was 5 times 3x minus 4 times x minus 3. Don't forget to include the GCF in your final answer. All right, we've got one more, and let's wrap this up. We have negative 9x squared plus 24x minus 12. Don't forget about GCF. When the first term is negative, we need to factor out a negative GCF. So looking here, we have negative 9x squared plus 24x minus 12. So the number that's in common between 9, 24, and 12 is 3. But we must factor out a negative 3 in order to get that negative off the first term. So then I'm left with 3x squared, because negative 3 times positive 3 would give me negative 9. Then I would have negative 8x, because negative 3 times negative 8 is positive 24. And a positive 4, because negative 3 times 4 would give me negative 12. All right, pause the video and try factoring this one out now. Okay, hopefully you had some success factoring this one out. After we got that negative 3, my factors were 1 and 3 for my first term, 1 and 4, and 2 and 2 for my last term, to which I got my factors to be 3x minus 2 and x minus 2. This one gave me negative 2x. This one gave me negative 6x, which added together to my negative 8x. My final answer, negative 3 times 3x minus 2 times x minus 2. All right, hopefully you got some practice in with this and you're getting a little better about factoring. We will practice this the next day.